Did you know that millionaires can qualify for EBT, but you might not? Today, we are diving into the surprising reasons why some wealthy individuals can receive government assistance while many low-income families struggle to qualify. EBT or electronic benefits transfer is a system used to distribute SNAP benefits, which help low-income families put food on the table. But how can someone with millions in assets still be eligible for these benefits? First, understand the basic eligibility criteria for EBT. SNAP benefits are determined based on income and assets, but there are significant variations between federal and state criteria. The federal government sets certain income thresholds, but states can have their own additional rules and exemptions. The broad-based categorical eligibility policy allows applicants to bypass an assets test if their income is low enough. In June 2016, Rob Undersander applied for food stamps in Stearns County, Minnesota, using an abundance of honesty and caution. He even discussed his assets with a county official who confirmed that policy did not allow for denial based on assets alone. Over 19 months, I received $6,000 from the government, which he donated to charity. He aimed to expose the flaw in the board-based categorical eligibility policy of SNAP. Minnesota is among 34 states, along with Washington, D.C., that use this loophole to avoid checking assets. 3 weeks after applying, Undersander received an EBT card with $278 per month in benefits. He notified a local newspaper, leading to an investigation by the country's fraud and abuse unit. Although he's retired, Undersander doesn't yet collect Social Security, which would make him ineligible. Undersander argues that an asset test ensuring only the needy can access food stamps would help those in genuine need. The Agriculture Department, which administers SNAP, is considering a regulation to eliminate the board-based policy. At a House Agricultural Committee hearing, Rep. Jim McGovern accused Undersander of intentionally defrauding the government. Undersander, attending but not testifying, couldn't respond. All other state and federal programs measure income and assets, but the food stamp program considers income only. Undersander followed the rules and laws that lawmakers support. He volunteered for the Central Minnesota Council on Aging, helping seniors with Medicare, re-enrollment, and social services. Johnson pointed out that Undersander didn't lie on his forms but highlighted a system flaw. He argued that receiving a welfare check shouldn't be easier than applying for a job. Johnson noted that in states like Vermont, receiving a mailer about public assistance can convey food stamp eligibility. The Wall Street Journal reported that receiving a heating assistance flyer in the mail can also qualify someone for food stamps. Subcommittee Chairwoman Marcia Fudge criticized Undersander, accusing him of gaming the SNAP system. Undersander countered, saying he did a better job of distributing the money by donating it to charity. Mandela Burns testified that eliminating broad-based categorical eligibility would impact children's access to nutritious food. He noted that 24,000 children in Wisconsin alone would be affected. Fudge cited a Congressional Budget Office estimate that eliminating this policy would result in 400,000 fewer people being eligible for food stamps. Johnson referenced an Agricultural Department report estimating that most food stamp income eligible homes have financial resources exceeding the federal limit of $20,000 in assets. A Congressional Research Service report from January said eliminating broad-based categorical eligibility would save roughly $12 billion over the next decade. The Government Accountability Office report from 2012 found that a higher percentage of SNAP households eligible under broad-based categorical eligibility had income errors compared to other households. Most families and individuals who meet the program's income guidelines are eligible for SNAP. The size of a family's SNAP benefit is based on its income and certain expenses. For example, gross monthly income for SNAP eligibility generally must be at or below 130% of the poverty line. For a family of 3, this is $2,694 a month or about $32,328 a year. Net income after deductions must be at or below the poverty line. Assets must fall below certain limits: $2,750 for households without a member aged 60 or older or with a disability, and $4,250 for those with such members. SNAP counts cash income from all sources, including earned income and unearned income like cash assistance, social security, and child support. Generally, resources that could be available to purchase food, such as bank accounts, count as assets. Items not accessible like the household's home, personal property, and most automobiles do not count. States have the option to relax the asset limits, and most have done so. Some categories of people, like those on strike or without a documented immigration status, are not eligible for SNAP. Many adults aged 18 to 52 without children or disability are limited to 3 months of SNAP benefits every 3 years unless they meet additional requirements. Congress suspended this work reporting requirement until after the public health emergency ended in May 2023. The Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023 expands the work reporting requirement to adults up to the age of 54, phasing in by October 2024. This agreement provides temporary exemptions for veterans, the homeless, and former foster youth. States can temporarily waive the work reporting requirement in areas with high unemployment. Most information on these requirements can be found on the USDA's website. SNAP benefits are adjusted annually for inflation. Recent years saw significant adjustments due to temporary benefit increases during the pandemic, which have since ended. USDA's revision on the Thrifty Food Plan raised maximum SNAP benefits by 21% in the fiscal year 2022 and going forward, reflecting the cost of a healthy diet. For households with net income, the monthly SNAP benefit equals the maximum benefit for that household size minus the household's expected contribution of 30% of its net income. In fiscal year 2024, a family of 3 with no income would receive the maximum benefit of $766 per month. A family with $600 in net monthly income would receive $586 after deductions. The average benefit per person in fiscal year 2024 is estimated to be $189 per month or $6.2 per day. Deductions like the standard deduction, earnings deduction, dependent care deduction, child support deduction, and medical expense deduction play important roles in determining SNAP benefits. The excess shelter deduction helps households with high housing costs meet their food needs. Over 2/3 of SNAP households claim the shelter deduction, while nearly 30% claim the earnings deduction. Smaller shares claim the dependent care, child support, and medical expense deductions. For example, a family of 3 with 1 full-time minimum wage worker, 2 children, dependent care cost of $54 a month, and shelter cost $1,103 per month could receive about $741 in monthly SNAP benefits. Understanding the complexities and loopholes in SNAP eligibility is crucial. Knowledge is power, and being informed about these policies can help ensure that assistance reaches those who genuinely need it. That's all for today. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more insights on financial policies and their impact on everyday lives.